She's got her own Facebook page and makes dozens of personal appearances around Central Illinois. She's quite the celebrity in the four-legged world. On this episode of the Paul Report, we're joined by Rachel, a golden girl with a giving heart, bringing comfort in a crisis.
The Paul Report on WEIU is supported by Rural King, America's farm and home store, livestock feed, farm equipment, pet supplies, and more. You can find your store and more information regarding Rural King at ruralking.com.
Dave's Decorating Center is a proud supporter of the Power Report on WEIU. Dave's Decorating Center features the Mohawk Smart Strand Silk Forever Clean Carpet. Dave's Decorating Center, authorized Mohawk Color Center in Charleston.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Paul Report, and boy, do we have a fantastic episode for you today. Not only do we have some human friends with us today, but we also have a very special four-legged gal, a golden gal that's joining us today, and we'd like to welcome three people to the studio today. We have Terry Baker, Chuck Lowell, and Rachel, my special friend. So thank you all for joining us today. We're talking about a very special ministry. We're going to get into it very in depth about what the two of you do and what your church family does in Charleston, Illinois. So Terry and Chuck, thank you for joining us. Introduce yourselves and introduce our very special girl.
I'm Terry Baker. I'm the top dog. That's my and I always get a laugh every time I say that wherever we go, because it sounds funny, but that's what, there's 100 of us, 130 top dogs. Mm-hmm. But Rachel and Chuck Lowell is a handler for Rachel. Rachel is our comfort dog at Emmanuel Lutheran Church here in Charleston, and I don't know what we would be like without Rachel. She changes our heart. So I think she's, I used to have dogs, she's my dog now, you know.
Mm-hmm. Chuck, welcome to the program. Introduce yourself.
I'm Chuck Lowell, and I'm a Charleston native. Went to Eastern, went to this lab school, married a local girl, and lived here most of my life. So got involved I've been a member of Emmanuel Lutheran Church since 1961. And when this ministry opportunity came up, I was retired, and I thought it would be wonderful. I've raised dogs myself at home, and I've just fallen in love with this ministry. The things that Rachel does for people is just undescribable. I'll try to do that today.
Well, she did something to me too, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later in the program. But first, the whole point of this interview is to kind of get the word out about the Lutheran Church Charities Canine Comfort Dog Ministry, and Rachel is one of those comfort dogs, obviously. This is a national program. Dogs are working all across the country, and I thought it was important to maybe mention the national ministry to start, and then we're going to get down to what the local church does. Mm-hmm. So, Chuck, tell us about the national organization.
The Lutheran Church Charities is in Northbrook, Chicago, and they run different missions. One of them is the Canine Ministry Program, the Comfort Dog Ministry Program. The Canine is also part of that Comfort Dog Ministry Program. There's 134 comfort dogs nationwide, and as we're speaking right now, 9 of those are down in Texas at the elementary school, comforting families and friends down there. 9 out of 134 dogs were called in on that. And they usually do that geographically. We weren't called to go down there because we want to have Rachel ready to comfort people if an emergency should arise up here in the northern Midwest states.
They go to missions where it may be a superstorm. They go to missions, like you mentioned, in Texas, where there's tragedy at a school there. Rachel herself has also been on a mission. Why don't you tell us about what she's done?
Probably the first and most significant mission was shortly after we got Rachel. a tornado went through Taylorville, Illinois, and Rachel was called to go over there and provide comfort to those victims. I wasn't part of that team at the time that went over there, but Rachel was, and Rachel did her thing. She's a working dog, and she can provide comfort when it's needed. She did a good job. That's the one that I know of, Terry.
Mm-hmm. We also had a funeral, suicide in Springfield, Illinois, at a school, and she went over there for the funeral. And that's about the only two that she's really been on
So far.
So far.
In this program, it is purebred golden retrievers. Why retrievers? I mean, I know why, because I've had that breed growing up, but I think it is important to maybe talk about that and give a little shout out to her lineage.
Well, golden retrievers have a certain comforting quality just because of their coat and their nature and their demeanor, but not all golden retrievers become comfort dogs. That's probably pretty important to state. Like I said earlier, there's only 134 comfort dogs nationwide. The other dogs in Rachel's litter were not chosen. A trained eye from a professional trainer can see these dogs in the litter, and they can identify the likely possibilities of it being a successful comfort dog that's able to follow commands to the letter. Rachel's a dog, and dogs do certain things that they just do naturally because they are dogs. Sniff, smell, lick, and those are things that we train her not to do. Not to nip at anyone, not to bark. So right now she is a working dog, and she's working right now. She's actually working, and she does a good job at it. I'll explain that later.
Absolutely. When and why did Emmanuel Lutheran, and again, Emmanuel Lutheran Church here in Charleston, decide to get involved in this ministry and to get Rachel? And that's to both of you, because I know you both have an answer for that.
That's a good question. When and why, I don't know. I just heard that that there were a couple people in our congregation heard about the ministry program and thought it'd be a good idea. The first step was to see if we can get a team put together, and they asked for volunteers. The one position that I liked was becoming a handler. You can be a handler, a helper, a top dog, or a caregiver in this program. I thought it'd be neat to be a handler. So that's how I got involved in it. The program then developed with no Rachel. It developed with making applications. All the people who wanted to be on the team were screened. We would background checks, fingerprinted, interviewed online, like Zoom, a Zoom interview, and they asked us some very specific questions. And those people who were selected after that screening became that team. Unfortunately, circumstances led to the two leaders that got the program going to leave the group. And then COVID hit, and our ministry team just about fell apart. And right when we were getting off the ground, the handlers all went up to Chicago for an intense 2-day training before we could get Rachel, and they came back with Rachel. So the handlers, me included, went through a kind of a shock there, not knowing what we were going to do. Meanwhile, the other workers, the top dogs, were reaching out to nursing homes, the county jail, schools, and just growing like crazy. Fast forward again to COVID. COVID hit, we were shut down from doing all of those kind of visits. The two people left, and our program, our ministry team was about ready to fall apart. And I felt particularly that there's a congregation out there that's waiting for a Rachel to come, and they could probably do her better than we could here. Terry stepped up to the plate.
A top dog.
He said, I don't know much about it, and I'm not a handler, but he made the application, and he passed the interview questions, went up to Chicago, and Terry has taken over and has done an excellent job keeping this thing together. So
Well, we're going to put you on the spot
There you
now,
go.
Terry.
That's all right. I've almost got tears anyway.
Oh, that's it, I mean, this is a special part of your life and in your heart, and you dedicate a lot of time, as do all the handlers and the
Right.
volunteers. So, I mean, it's important to hear from you and hear how it developed with you in this position.
Well, I mean, basically, what I do is I contact places after they contact LCC on it through an email, Rachel's email, and then they send me an email on Gmail. And when they do that, then I've got to call them or email them if I get their address and talk to them try to make a phone call so I can get personal with them and talk like we did with you, talk with you, find out the date, time, and everything, what you're really wanting us to do and everything. Well, then I make 2 months worth of schedules in advance.
Mm-hmm.
And so we got May, June and July. I'm working on August and September now. And a lot of the places we go to that I've gotten set up are same ones every month, same days, same times. Some of them we've talked with if we find a new place. Like we just started going to Effingham, Hollybrook, and Shelbyville, Hollybrook. So I've actually talked to a couple places and moved them to either not having 4 a month or 2 a month and add the others in. We're going to a great preschool, not just Emmanuel's. We're going to a public preschool. And we haven't been back in the jail since COVID.
Yeah.
And I did get to do it once with Chuck. And there was like 4 or 5 of us guys that went because the guys go with the guys, and then we've had women go in Coles County.
All of these places that she goes to, she has to go through intense training. As you said, going back to the litter that she was a part
Right.
of, the person knew exactly who was going to make it and potentially who wasn't. And I know, Chuck, you can talk about the training and she's still training every day. She's working now, but eventually this week she will do more
Can I say
training.
something before?
Absolutely.
Chuck, actually, and before they start doing their training during the week, and I'll let him talk about that, I try to make sure I've got the time for Rachel to train after visits so she doesn't get wore out. Because she can get wore out pretty quick, if we get too much activity going at once.
Absolutely.
So Rachel was trained starting at 8 weeks old. And before we got Rachel, she was about 18 months old. And in that time, she had gone through over 2,000 hours of training with a professional trainer when we got her. So our job as handlers, before they gave her to us, was to go to the training session and learn what her commands are and learn to be consistent with her. And the key role of the handler is to make sure that she knows that the handler is alpha and she's not alpha. You'll see somebody walking their dog down the street and you'll see the dog way out there in front. That's alpha. That dog's in charge. When Rachel walks, she's right at the seam of our pants, and her nose doesn't go any further than our pant legs. So supposedly, she's trained to do that. But she knows that I'm alpha and I've got her back no matter what happens. Nothing's going to happen to her, and that's very important. So all of the handlers have to know how to do that and how to keep her in the position of being that follower and not the leader. And that took a lot of training. It still does. So we are always still in training through the week. We keep reminding each other and making sure all of the commands are done exactly the same way. Consistency is real important when you have 10 different handlers.
Well, and it's also, I would think, part of her training. She has to get comfortable with so many people touching her and coming up to her and petting her, and
that's right.
That can make dogs nervous.
Well, and it should. A dog should become nervous of that. So what makes her a working dog is she's working to not be a dog, and that's stressful for her. So when she's done after this interview today, after having worked for an hour and a half or so, she gets rewarded with a full body rub, top to bottom, nose to toes, all the way down. And when this vest comes off of her, and the leash is off of her, she's a dog. And she'll run around this room and she'll chase a tennis ball, and she's just a real joy to play with too.
How old is Rachel?
She just had her golden birthday on May 5th. She turned 5.
WEIU is invited to the party, and
Showed
we're
up.
seeing some images of her big bash over at the church, so we appreciate that. We captured some great pictures of her celebrating. What are some of the other things that Rachel does, her comfort duties at the church?
Well, on Mondays and Tuesdays at Emmanuel Preschool, she's a greeter. When Rachel greets most people, she's about this high, or she's this high, you can see her. But the people who come into the preschool are about this high, so they're almost nose to nose with Rachel. If Terry says something, or if you say something, it's kind of funny when people say, "Oh, there's Rachel, come." And Rachel just looks at me like,
What am I supposed to do?
you know. So, but yeah, she goes with the command. If there's another handler sitting here but doesn't have the leash, when I hand over the leash to another handler, that's kind of a formal changing of the guard, so to speak, and she knows that. So she'll stay like that until I give her another command.
Would you mind showing us some commands? I know that I don't want to put you on the spot, but I think it is important that our viewers get a chance to see just how disciplined she is.
Rachel, sit. I'm going to stand up here.
Sure,
Okay.
absolutely.
You want to put your paper down on the table for me, please? Yeah, that's good. Good girl.
Thank you. I'm disciplined.
Okay. Rachel, with me? Rachel, with me? Okay, this is heel right here. Rachel, side. She can't get her butt. Rachel, side. She'll get in there. She'll get in there. She knows she can't get in there. So if I'm walking down the street and there's someone on one side of the sidewalk and I want Rachel on the other side of the sidewalk, I'll say, Rachel, heel. And we'll do that while we're walking. It's kind of fun to do it while you're walking and she does it in front of you. And then if I'm going to present her at church, we have a greeting at church where there's bigger people, I'll say, Rachel, front. And Rachel comes right here like this. And I'll do it around for the camera so the camera can see Rachel. I'm going to turn around this way. Rachel, front. And then I'll get behind her. Remember, I've always got her back. She's looking at me like, what are you going to do now? And I get my feet right there and her haunches right there. And we'll stand just like this for as long as it takes. I do greetings on Thursday mornings at the courthouse if anyone wants to see Rachel downtown. From about 8 o'clock to 8:45, we greet all the workers at the courthouse and other people who come in there with white pieces of paper in their hand. And every one of them greets Rachel and gives her a smile. So we also visit hospitals, nursing homes, different places where people are not able to walk up to her. Maybe they're in a wheelchair or in a bed. If they're on a bed, I'm going to do it this way. We have a command that we'll just say that my chair is the bed. And I will go up to the bed. Rachel, with me? Rachel, with me? Right here. She knows I'm going to do something. Right here, Rachel? Right here, Rachel. Rise. There you go. And obviously the bed is a little bit higher, the hospital bed is, but she'll get up on the bed here, and the person in the bed can just have their hand right here. And there's just a whole calmness that takes place when this is happening. Rachel, off. Rachel can also go to people in a wheelchair. Rachel, with me? I'm going to get her on a side. Here we go. This is going to be difficult for the camera at first, but I'll straighten her out. Would you like to have Rachel on your lap?
I would love it.
Rachel, lap.
I've been waiting for this the whole interview. Can I take you home? Would that be okay? Just for a little bit? She's like, okay, I'm ready for the command. How long will she stay like
How
this?
long? Until I give her another command.
Aw,
I can tell when she's getting a little tired and I can take her off. At Shelbyville, the residents were in a circle when we went over there waiting for us. And I did this, I went around and I asked the residents, would you like to have Rachel on your lap? Of course, after the first one, they knew what that meant. So some of the people would just, no, that's okay. So she put her chin right on their thigh, and that was good enough for them. But I'd say half of them probably did it
At
right.
least half, yeah.
Did a lap.
Well, who wouldn't want this bundle of love on their lap?
I do.
I do it every
myself.
day. Ah, Rachel, you're a gem. Absolutely a gem. What about the military ministry that's also associated with the Comfort program? I know you wanted to touch on that.
You want to hold her for a little bit while
Sure,
I'm talking?
absolutely.
No, you can't do that. But do you want to have her on your lap for a little bit?
Sure,
Okay.
absolutely.
Okay, Canine. Rachel is what we call double vested. She's able to be handled by trained handlers, so she has the blue vest. That's for everyone. If she's going to go to visit some veterans, we don't want to have a non-veteran taking Rachel to see a veteran, because there's an assumption that a non-veteran doesn't really know what this veteran possibly has been through. So because I'm a veteran, I can take Rachel to visit veterans, which means she's double vested because we have a veteran in our group. If we had a policeman in our group, she could be triple vested because we also have a police vest that can be worn, but we don't have a policeman in our group yet. So this is the vest that she would wear if she were going to visit veterans. I've been trying to get into the Veterans Hospital in Danville, but COVID hit, and when they did let people start to come back in, they have real strict regulations and requirements to go through, and I haven't done that yet. But I would like to get involved with the campus vets, the veterans on Eastern's campus. If there's a way that they could reach out to me or to Terry, we can let them know how that can be done too.
Rachel, you want to sit for a little bit?
Rachel, off.
Well, we have
Good
just a
girl.
few more minutes left, and I thought it was important that we need to get a couple more things in.
Sure.
Some memorable stories, and I can tell you about mine in my introduction to Rachel real quick. And then lastly, we'll talk about, like I said, if somebody wants Rachel to come and visit their group or organization, we need to get that information in. My granddaughter attended preschool at Emmanuel Lutheran, and I had the pleasure of taking her to school this year. And the first time that I took her to school, I was very nervous as grandma. I had my hands on the steering wheel and I was white knuckling driving to school because I just wanted to make sure she had a safe journey to school and she had a memorable time getting there with grandma. And I was extremely nervous. My heart was beating a mile a minute. And it was that Monday when I walked in the school, I saw Rachel, and literally my anxiety it was just like a calming sensation fell over me, and I went up and I was able to pet Rachel, and my granddaughter was petting Rachel, and it was just a wonderful experience. And I can say that personally, that I've had Rachel change me. And it was a wonderful experience. But I know that both of you have also been able to see Rachel change people for the better. Want to tell us a couple of stories quickly before we're out of time?
Sure. Well, most of mine well, I wouldn't say nursing home. That's not true. In the jail, it's interesting. They're very well disciplined. The inmates are. Is that right? And they have them sitting down, and we take Rachel in, and just her presence brings comfort to these people, and they're so appreciative. But when they pet Rachel, there's a lot of thoughts that go through people's minds about the dogs that they had at one time, and she is automatically bringing back fond memories and provides comfort. But when you see that tear roll down their cheeks, that's when you know it's working. It's just amazing. And I've seen that in memory care units at nursing homes, where some of those residents have never shown any expression whatsoever since they were there. And just 2 weeks ago, a resident who had been there that I hadn't seen, but I knew was there, was out in the lobby area where we were greeted, and I took Rachel over to him, and Rachel had her chin on his thigh, and he put his hand on her head, and he smiled. And the director had a tear come down her cheek. She told me later, she said, he hasn't had an expression at all since he's been here. That's the first expression that he's had, was that smile on his face. And so that was the most recent and a pretty powerful one for me.
Absolutely. You're doing a good job, Rachel. Well, Terry, before we wrap it up here, tell us how, if somebody is interested, we've got about 30 seconds left.
Well,
if somebody
I better get my
interested
email out.
If somebody is interested in bringing Rachel to their group or organization, what do they need to do?
Go to rachel@k9comfort.org. If you're a school, we have to have the permission, state, we have to have permission from the state and everything, form filled out. But a church, a preschool, assisted livings, anywhere like that, all you have to do is send an email to this
Email
LCC,
address?
and it goes to LCC in Northbrook. Then they'll send me an email from LCC requesting Rachel. And then I do the rest of it. I contact through the email back to the person or people who's asked for a visit, and then I'll call them and we'll talk, and I'll get the dates and times and that they're available, and then I look at the schedules and see when we can get her in, and then I contact them and we set it up.
And away we go.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for bringing her in.
Yeah.
And it was a pleasure speaking with the both of you, Chuck and Terry, about the K9 Comfort Program that's right here in Charleston, Illinois, and featuring the star Rachel. Thank you both for joining
It's a pleasure
us.
for us to be here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It was our pleasure.
And we thank you, our viewers of the Paul Report, for joining us for this episode of the Paul Report. Until then, we'll see you next week.
Dave's Decorating Center is a proud supporter of the Power Report on WEIU. Dave's Decorating Center features the Mohawk Smart Strand Silk Forever Clean Carpet. Dave's Decorating Center, authorized Mohawk Color Center in Charleston.
The Paul Report on WEIU is supported by Rural King, America's farm and home store, livestock feed, farm equipment, pet supplies, and more. You can find your store and more information regarding Rural King at ruralking.com. Additional support for the Paul Report provided from Soggy Paws of Mattoon.